See? The New World Order. Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of election, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. It is April 26th, 2013. Another Friday edition here. DTRH. Getting close to the first month. Already underway here at Unbound. Want to give Shepard and Bellis a big shout out and a big thank you for having this platform built. And I want to give a big shout out to Chris Gio for doing all the technical stuff on the back end to help us out. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I am excited for the first time here on Unbound, but not the first time on my broadcast, to be bringing a good friend of mine back to the airwaves to discuss the multitude of insanity going on around us, and it's been a while since I've had him on. Now, my older listeners might know who he is, but the newer listeners, just in case you don't, you're going to get a brief introduction, and then we're going to get into the Boston bombing, false flag events, and so much more. But we got about a minute before we go to break, so really quick, I'm going to bring him up, and then when we come back on the other side of the break, I'm going to have him give a little background information. But tonight, my guest is my good friend, researcher, filmmaker, radio show host, Marine, and all around awesome human being, Holland Vandennieuwenhof. Holland, welcome back, brother.
Thank you, Popeye. Thank you for that warm introduction. It's a distinct pleasure to be on your show, as always, and I'm excited for your new venue and to be able to speak to this audience about these topics. So thank you very much.
Your insight, dude, is spot on. One of the last times, probably like 2 episodes ago, you were on. We did like this 4-hour mega broadcast. Remember, we ended up doing like 2.5 hours off air afterwards, and I added it to the archive. Yeah. And dude, you were calling things, back and forth. We were, I think we left the listeners with, pay attention. There's going to be more of these type events. You'll see shootings, and since then, we've had Sandy Hook, and now the Boston bombing, which both reek in their own right because they have a bunch of red flags. But I'm going to cut us off right there because the break's sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Holland and I will be back in exactly 1 minute, so don't go anywhere. We're going to have a nice long segment. I want to get into things. Strap yourselves in. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. For the new listeners, I'm going to have Holland introduce himself a little bit and let you know about some of his work. He's a filmmaker. He is a radio show host. In his own right, he's got a radio show. And he's part of the film crew that made A Noble Lie. And he's also working on newer films. So, Holland, go ahead, take a few minutes and give the newer listeners a little bit of a bio about yourself and what you're up to now, and then we'll get into the Boston bombings and everything else.
Okay. I guess I first gained a notoriety as a writer and producer for the film A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City, 1995, which released December of 2011. And by the way, if you want to check that out, it has been officially released for free. And go to YouTube, Free Mind Films channel, and check out the high-quality official free version for those who have been reluctant to purchase or just have not occurred to them. It's a lot easier to watch it for free instantly, obviously. So anyways, I'm sorry about that plug. I was excited about that coming out, and I'm really glad people can get out there and spread the word.
Don't be sorry about anything, dude. I was going to have you plug it anyway. That's awesome that it's out there on YouTube now for people to see, so kudos.
Yeah, excellent. Anyways, so I did that, and that was the culmination of several years of research and collaboration with the Oklahoma Bombing Investigation Committee, including State Representative Charles Key, Chris Emery, and others, and victims' family members and so forth, to try to seek the truth about the bombing. And in doing so, I've achieved an insight. I've interviewed first-hand witnesses and people who were being encouraged to carry out acts of terror by agents provocateur. And I've learned their methods and their methodology. I've seen it firsthand at work in Oklahoma City. And that's how I view these events now, through that lens, and using what I've learned to analyze what is occurring now and to see if indeed the fix is in on these events. And as I'm sure we've all concluded who are listening, indeed, it appears the Boston bombings are an inside job, as it were, that it is a staged event, a false flag attack to implement a political agenda. We see that political agenda unfolding currently.
And, I'm not me, dude, I'm not the first person to run out and scream, oh my God, false flag. In fact, I'm usually the one saying, wait, give it 48 to 72 hours. I'm going to tell you what. As soon as I heard there were bombs going off at the marathon, I was like, okay, either this is some crappy reporting and something small happened that got blown out of proportion, or if this is a really big event, I don't know if I trust it. Even if I and it's not because I'm cynical anymore. It's just because I looked at it and I was like, wow, are you going to be that blatant now? Are you going to be that obvious? Like you're not even going to try anymore?
Yeah, and the sloppiness is either an example of extreme decay in their methods, or, I don't know, perhaps they're lulling us into a sense of complacency. Are they that subtle? I don't know. But certainly, as we discussed before, almost I wouldn't say predicted, but prognosticated, pondered about the possibility of the information were the curve unraveling these official stories so fast as they occur. And we saw this with the Boston bombings. As the week-long drama unfolded, it was being exposed left and right as a fraud.
It's ridiculous. And then, of course, you have the FBI saying, hey, you can't look at any pictures other than the ones that we provide, Holland. You better not look at anything else. Holland, are you committing a thought crime? Did you have too much to think, sir? Could you please step out of your vehicle, sir? You've been thinking and driving. Please step out. You're under arrest for thinking and driving. I mean, it's ridiculous, dude. And when you look at some of this stuff, come on. Like, I want to get your raw opinion, because I haven't asked you this yet. What's the first thing, or the biggest thing, I should say, that sticks out at you, red flag-wise, with the Boston bombing?
Well, obviously the military contractors with the identical backpacks indicating that some kind of drill was underway. That was used in the Oklahoma City bombing. The use of a concurrent military or law enforcement drill provides a couple purposes. One, it facilitates the movement of assets and resources into place to perpetuate the crime. And secondly, after the fact, it effectuates the cover-up, because all the people involved in this operation, it's not so much they were recruited because they knew they were going to blow up the Boston bombing or blow up the Oklahoma City bombing. They thought they were involved in either a law enforcement operation, a sting operation, or some kind of drill. And now that it has gone bad, they are literally covering their own behinds. They're scrambling for cover because they are implicated in mass murder.
You see, to me, when everybody was like, "Oh, those look like Navy SEALs," I said, "They don't look like SEALs. They look like mercs. They look like mercenaries, private contractors." Yep. And you can see the bedazzlement on the one dude's face, like, "Oh my God, did that just happen?"
Yep. The tactical pants. The tactical pants is a dead giveaway. That's how you give away a contractor, because they love to buy those $90 tactical pants.
Yes, they do.
SEALs just want to wear blue jeans.
Well, see, that's what I said. I said, look, if they were special ops, you wouldn't see them. You wouldn't be able to tell who they are. If they were black ops,
and those guys were not strictly undercover. They were wearing some kind of matching uniform.
Oh, yeah, they were there. It looked like on a drill, and then the drill went live, unbeknownst to them, and they were like, what the F? That's the look they had on their face.
And they get on their phones.
Yeah, like if I said this last week. See, this is why I wanted to pick your brain about this, because as I was even saying it last week, I was thinking to myself, I'm willing to bet that if I talk to Holland about this, you know how my brain works. I'm like, I'm willing to bet when I talk to Holland about this, not even if, but when I talk to Holland about this, he's going to have the same thoughts. Because, dude, the first thing it popped right out was I was like, wow, they wouldn't be black ops guys. And everybody's like, how do you know? How do you know? And I said, think about it. Can you see the SEAL team or Delta when they're operating, following people around? No. You see it in the movies, right, where they're dressed up, they're all slick, and they're dressed in the local attire or whatever, right? So why would they be in obvious, like, some sort of uniform or uniform type...
They were wearing a company uniform is what they were wearing, a company uniform.
Yeah, they all had, like, the same color.
Issue black fleeces, exactly. Tactical pants, tan boots.
And if it's Chris Kyle's group, this is another thing that I pondered last
night. Now we must wonder about Chris Kyle's death.
Bam! See? That's you and I think exactly on the same page. Why was he murked a couple months back out on the shooting range?
Yeah, by some crazed former Marine who had a host of psychological problems, and I can only relate this to what I know to be true about the Oklahoma City bombing. The military is often used as a testing ground for mind control technology. It appears that Tim McVeigh himself was subjected to that, according to his medical records, which they've never released in full, but what have been released are very troubling. Anyways, not to get into that. Yeah, so Chris Kyle dies at the hands of this crazed, traumatized Marine, a veteran of the war, and perhaps it's seen as a case of irony, I suppose. I didn't look too deep into it because I'm not jumping to conclusions. I'm confident in this age of information that the truth will come out. There are enough people around who are inquisitive enough who are presenting this information that I know it'll get out, as has been demonstrated. But yes, now we must wonder about the death of Chris Kyle. He's obviously the company he started. Someone was wearing their uniform when that happened.
I mean, if it wasn't them, who was it then? And again, to me, it looked like they were contractors that were in the middle of doing a drill, and the drill went live. And I've said this to you before, off air and on air. I think, and I said this, I actually reiterated this last night and last week somewhat, but I got into it a little more last night, that I think that every time there's a major drill going on, there's always that black option that they have where they can pull off one of these black ops, and if they want this thing to go live and become a quote-unquote terror attack, it can at any given moment.
Yeah, what they do is they take an existing operation. Obviously, these Chechen kids were informants or working for intelligence. I mean, they were recruited years ago. They attended a CIA workshop, for God's sakes. And the family's been on a watch list. They've been inquisited about by foreign countries. They have been on every terrorism and intelligence watch list there is for years. So obviously they were assets, and they were probably involved with some kind of operation. And what happens is, like they did with Oklahoma City, they take an existing operation. Oklahoma City started out as an infiltration of the neo-Nazi right in order to snare them all on weapons charges and explosive charges. And they took that undercover operation and this sting operation, and they made it go live. And so they took this operation that was already in place with these Chechen kids, and they made it go live. And the thing is, Chechens for the most part, support the U.S. government because, I mean, the Chechens are fighting Russia. And we have provided covert support to Chechen rebels for years. I knew a special operator. I know one. And he told me that he was in Chechnya shooting at Russian cops, like in the mid-1990s, trying to start a war, which they did, provoking a war, provoking Russia to invade Chechnya. I'm not saying Russia's the good guy there at all, but or Chechnya. But that's how they work, and it just doesn't make sense that these Chechen kids would choose to bomb the Boston Marathon to promote what cause?
You know what the first thing I thought when I heard Chechen rebels? Crazy. Those Chechens, oh my God.
I thought of 24.
Well, that too. But the first thing that before all that crap and all the stuff that's already been pre-programmed into people's heads by the media, the first thing I thought of was Fallujah, Phantom Fury, Operation Phantom Fury 2, 2004.
Mm-hmm.
I read all the books that were written by the guys on the ground that fought in those battles.
My rifle company was tip of the spear. They were main effort through Fallujah. I was not there. I got out of the Marine Corps in 1999, honorable discharge as a sergeant. But my rifle company, I kept up with them, of course, and they were indeed tip of the spear in Fallujah. So yeah, I've been a student of that battle also.
Well, thinking back to that battle, the number one insurgent, I'm doing air quotes when I say it, insurgent that the teams were coming across every time they would engage somebody, these rifle teams, you know who they were coming across mostly?
Chechens.
Yeah. Now, what the hell are they doing in Iraq? Well, then you also think that when I think of them, I always think CIA, because whenever they're around, the CIA and drugs are connected. And again, when you look in Fallujah, and I talked to Dahlia Wasfi about this, and her husband was a Marine on the ground in Fallujah, and he confirmed this. I said, they were finding a lot of drugs. When they would take out these machine gun nests, these guys would be all like, Tony Montana up.
Yeah. They would not go into shock. You'd have to shoot them 9 times.
Oh, I was reading accounts where there's one Marine sniper, they hit the guy in his throat and blew out like half to 3/4 of his throat, and his neck and everything just blew it out, and the guy kept running. He still had an RPG. He had to hit him in the head and blow his head pretty much completely off in order to stop the guy. And they later found out it was one of these guys that was all banged up on drugs. Now, I mean, drugs, Chechens. I smell the CIA, Holland. I smell the intelligence agencies. So the first thing when they said, "Oh my God, they're Chechen," I was like, "Oh God, here we go."
Yep. More
black op, false flaggery crap. And of course, I mean, you already kind of knew that as soon as the bombs went off. And there's a few things here and there that stick out to me. We got about a minute before we go to break, but one of the things, and I want to get into this with you on the other side, I want to get your opinion on this, but the fact that the bombs maimed more people than they killed. Usually bombers, if anybody's ever seen like a bombing, even in Iraq, even these homemade bombs, they liquidate people, right?
Well,
there were a lot of injuries, and I know they were pressure cooker bombs, but to me, a government would want, especially as a backdrop, they would want more wounded people that are physically and mentally scarred.
It was traumatizing.
Yes.
Yeah, the pictures were traumatizing. It obviously, I mean, we were not spared the carnage, the traumatic amputations, but we were being spared the footage of the kids actually dropping off the backpacks. So for some reason, we can't see that.
Well, that trauma-based mind control doesn't work that way. That's why. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a few short minutes. Stay tuned. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Now, Holland, there's so many shady things, but again, like I said, going into break, one of the things that sticks out to me is that there was more injured than there was killed. And I know people are saying, well, what do you want, more people dead? No, I don't want anybody dead, but it's if a terrorist was bent on killing people, you would expect that there would be more people killed. But if you wanted to wound and maim people so you could later use them as political backdrops and footballs...
Yeah, we need victims to testify before Congress about stricter laws on this or that. On black powder, that's on the agenda, ordering black powder, so killing off the gun culture by killing off reloading.
Yeah, because when you go to gun shows, and people love to buy ammo at gun shows, especially right now because the big makers are, getting all their ammo bought up by the DHS, and the forestry service, or the janitorial staff at some federal office building somewhere will buy 10,000 rounds on the off chance the janitors have to take on zombies, I suppose, right? Right, sure.
And
that's
they're
not
buying
being done on purpose.
1,000 rounds more per man than the military, which is involved in a 19 front war right now.
But don't worry about that. If you're worried about that, you're a conspiracy theorist.
Well, I mean, part of it probably is trying to take ammo off the market, so when it does become so restricted, there's not a whole lot left.
Exactly. And it's interesting who's buying... You got to look at the whole panic, the way the media orchestrates stuff.
Hey, can I speak my mind on this show, Popeye?
No. You've never had the ability to ever do that. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was just asking.
Of course. Silly question. I think buying up the ammo, part of the issue... yes, is to dry it up, and the other half is to, yes, have it. But then what's left? Reloading. So what are they going after now? Black powder. How do you blame black powder? Well, if you can't get gun control laws passed, well, then what happens? Boom, a terror attack happens, and suddenly the guy used black powder, and I'll bet you...
Or how about this? This happens a couple more times, an executive order to protect us, banning black powder sales over the internet.
I'm waiting for that. I'm surprised there's not registration required already, like a black powder license. I know they're trying.
Well, that may be the first step. They'll probably go for banning and settle for license and registration. So.
Oh, that's actually, I think it's Lautenberg. I think Lautenberg's the one. He out of Jersey right now. He's trying to pass a bill to restrict black powder. It's black powder that caused the Boston Marathon bombings. Yeah.
Well, a guy in New Jersey just got arrested for shooting a bear that was attacking him on his property.
New Jersey sucks. That's why I moved out of that state. I grew up there. The laws in that state are ridiculous. And now they want to put even more restrictive gun laws in. Like in New Jersey, you have to...
I think more statism just makes you retarded. It must, because once you go down that slippery slope of just over-regulation and restricting people's rights, they develop a fetish for it. What more can we take away?
Their governor just said, I'll never put new gun control laws in. We already have enough gun control laws here. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He's a liar. I mean, come on. Dude, in Jersey, to get a pistol, you have to get a firearms ID card. Right? Mm-hmm. Well, once you have this firearms ID card, like this purchasing permit or whatever, they tell you it's good for life. Well, now they're talking about going back and rescinding that. That's part of this. All those will go away. Well, but what about all those legal gun owners? They didn't do anything wrong. Did they cause mass shootings? Well, it doesn't matter. Something could happen. Okay, well, a kid could get hit by a bus, too. Does that mean we should just ban all motor vehicles? We should stop all modes of transportation because, hey, something might happen. I mean, and people are buying into that because society's been dumbed down and everything is appealed to emotion. The news isn't news anymore.
And they're used to being bossed around also now.
Oh, yeah.
From cradle to grave being bossed around.
Calling the cops on it for every little thing. Hey, Holland, I didn't get my hamburger at McDonald's correctly. I'm going to call the cops.
Exactly. So, yeah, they're breeding out any kind of instinct for freedom or independence. A couple of generations from now, we'll have no idea what we are talking about.
Oh, I mean, most people don't. We live in idiocracy now. The first time I saw idiocracy, like 8 years ago, I was like, well, I could see it getting to that extent. But I mean, and I even said this. That's pushing it. That's like really far out there. Fast forward to today, and I'm like, okay, we live in idiocracy because some of the very same crap that they were actually watching on the TV shows in the movies, in the movie itself, are actually similar to what's on TV now. I'm going to cut us off because we got a break coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Nice long segment coming up. Stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. So, Holland, we got a nice long segment here, so we can get into a little bit further detail. The bombing itself. Okay, let's put aside all the camera footage that's come out. You know, the Black Ops mercs running around there, whatever you want to call them. Which they were obviously mercenaries. They weren't U.S. military Black Ops. It was obviously some sort of mercs because, again,
perhaps ex-military.
Yeah, ex-military, but definitely they didn't have that military bearing that they would have if they were still in. And
well, you know, a lot of mercs are former cops. They take a leave of absence, and they go merc out for 6 months out of the year.
Oh,
they look like cops to me. I don't know.
Could be, dude. Maybe FBI, government agent, something like that. But you're not supposed to look at that. You're only supposed to look at what the government tells you. But aside from that, what do you think about this whole Saudi guy thing in the hospital? And I don't know if you saw the pictures, but
yeah, of Michelle Obama.
Yeah, like in the hospital room with this kid
playing patty cake with him.
Yeah, what's that about?
Man, that is so weird that I don't know. I don't know why they're doing that, or why they've been so sloppy. I can only think that their initial story fell apart, and these Chechen kids are a fallback because it's not. Surely they didn't plan on something being this sloppy. I'm not putting it past them at all because just like with the Oklahoma City bombing, they bungled that tremendously. That truck bomb was supposed to explode in the parking garage under the building. And if that had occurred, it would have been nigh impossible to determine that there had been other explosives in the building. We know this because of the divergent blast pattern from the crater. Anyways, then the reason that did not occur was Tim McVeigh and his bungling cohorts rented a truck that was too damn big to fit into the parking garage. It was too high. And that explains their weird movements, circling the building and looking for places to park and moving again and parking down the street and getting on the phone and talking fiercely into the phone. I mean, all of this stuff. So I'm not putting past at all a tremendous bungling. And then when people say, oh, it can't be a conspiracy because the government's not that great. Well, they're not that great. They're not that competent. I have seen their work firsthand. I'm frankly, for the most part, not impressed.
And that's why you're able to find this stuff out, because if they were so great, then nobody would know.
But they can rely upon a compliant media which is bought out, sold out, or controlled to not shed light on these divergent threads. These, for the most part, these things are reported in mainstream media, but they're never later packaged for mass consumption.
Well, see, that's where most people go, well, if this is true, why isn't it on CNN? Well, because CNN's controlled by the very same people that are lying to you and pulling this stuff off. So if you understand that, then you understand that they're just propaganda mouthpieces. Now, once you look away from CNN, what do you see? And I'm not talking about going to Fox or MSNBC or any of those, ABC, PBS, CBS. Go to the independent, the alternative, whatever, and when you start to see other viewpoints other than the propaganda that's being fed to you, it's amazing. Because all of that coincides with one another and dovetails into one another. And I know that there's some misinformation out there, but as a whole, this stuff all dovetails with one another and connects and makes sense. It's like puzzle pieces fit together. Whereas when you look at the official story, it's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's have a debate. Let's debate the evidence. I mean, the official story is a wet paper bag, just like Oklahoma City. It is laughable. One side doesn't know what the other side is doing. They're issuing conflicting statements. They're all covering their own asses. It's just a scramble for cover. They think they were involved in a tremendous foul-up. So, I mean, it's not pretty. But the mainstream media is not going to concentrate. But, I mean, actually, they are to some extent. NPR, I heard this morning or yesterday morning, actually did an extended piece on the dichotomy of the official story with what was being reported by media and people on the street.
And if you look, what's their response to this whole thing with people pointing out, the 4chan people pointing out the pictures of these mercenaries, whoever they are, and all this other stuff, the alternative media.
Well, now you see Boston falling off the news feed.
Yeah, well, but what's the? Did you see the narrative that Rachel Maddow and them are trying to push now? Did you hear the latest? The alternative media.
This should be entertaining.
The alternative media. I went off on Maddow for this last night. The alternative media is radicalized the Boston bomber.
So she is a bought out tool. I didn't know if she was a complete moron or just a complete tool, but she's a complete tool.
Oh yeah, dude, without a doubt. I mean, she's just like the rest of them. I mean, they're literally, now the narrative is they're linking. Well, he went to alternative news websites like the Al Qaeda Inspire magazine website. Well, hold on. You're calling that alternative media? Really? So they're building.
They're linking it with the bogeyman. They
right,
have
exactly.
to. They're invoking the Muslim card time and time again, and they're going to keep on doing it until it's past worn out. It's successful. It works. They go with what works. It's kind of easy to predict the methodology, and they're going to keep on waving the Muslim card as long as it works. Did
you see the McVeigh tapes, by the way? Speaking of Rachel Maddow, she did a documentary or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, I would probably get sick if I saw Maddow doing a documentary on the Oklahoma City bombing, so I'll spare myself that. But go ahead and tell me about it.
Oh yeah, no, she did it. Her and MSNBC put it out last year, and it's now on Netflix. But in this little hit piece she did on conspiracy theorists last night, or it was actually the night before. I ripped it apart last night. She mentioned the Oklahoma City bombing. She's like, yeah, they think that everything's a conspiracy. The Oklahoma City bombing. And I paused it. I'm like, Rachel, I recommend you go watch the movie A Noble Lie. Because once you watch the film, and it's not, I'm not plugging the film because I want Holland to make any money or I want anybody else to make any money. I'm not trying to make anybody pocket change. I want people to watch the film because, I mean, you should buy it on DVD so you have a physical copy. I agree with that. But I'm telling you to do this and watch it because of
you can watch it
evidence.
Live just off your computer on YouTube. Go to Free Mind Films channel on YouTube and watch it. It's 2 hours long. Right. Anyways, go ahead, Paul.
And support, again, so I support Holland's work. I support Chris and James. Support, pass the link around so people can see their work. Let everybody see it. That stuff is important. That movie in and of itself is very important for people to see. You know why, dude? I'll tell you a little personal story. I told you this before, but I'll reiterate it on air for the listeners. My father was on the edge. I don't know. I'm still, He watched the movie. I just let him watch it. After watching the movie, he was like, they did it. They did it. Okay?
And we don't even say that in the film.
No.
Still, the evidence is like, yeah, okay.
It's right there. So I would I would love to see you debate her. I would love to see her try to sit down with you and try to debate you on Oklahoma City because you would destroy her. They would mute your mic in the first 30 seconds. Yeah. You do realize that, right?
Yeah. But I would welcome the opportunity. I've thrown down the gauntlet countless times for a qualified debate. We can go by old school rules. I welcome that, and we don't have that anymore. No one debates. I mean, the presidential debates are whatever, but no one debates anymore these issues.
That was the other part of the hit piece. You can't debate with us because they give us facts, and we deny that the facts are true. So there's no arguing with those people.
I've heard in a discussion debate with a qualified liberal the complaint that all I was saying was facts.
Wow.
And she couldn't handle that. I was like, well, I really hope policy would be dictated by facts and not by personal, idiosyncrasies.
What would you prefer? Myths? Would you rather a bedtime story with a happy ending, lady, or would you rather the truth? I had a cop tell me one time, you read too much. Oh. You're one of those people that reads too much. Oh. So don't you have to fill out reports where you read in the report? Don't you read when you're driving your car and you read the signs, right? So I guess it just goes to show that there is just more proof that right now they're hiring people.
Well, anti-intellectualism is celebrated. You're not seeing reality shows about really smart people making the right choices in their lives. You're not seeing reality shows about that.
Dude, that was so well put. You're right. You don't see shows about like Nikola Tesla or any people with that type of potential, right? Because there are kids out there that are geniuses, right? You don't see them being followed around. What you see is like the douches from the Jersey Shore, and that's what they want you to idolize.
Exactly, and they celebrate it. The duck face is, is simply an outgrowth of that, a symptom of that control.
Is that where that stupid thing came from?
I think so. I'm not sure.
That's the most unattractive thing for a female. Ladies, if you do that duck face thing where you pucker your lips up and take a stupid picture with your face, you're ugly as possible. Don't do that. You look stupid. Okay, you're not attractive. None of that. Stop buying into these memes. It's almost like they beta test to see how they can control people and to see how long we are.
Well, they do. It's it's like I guess silent weapons for quiet wars. Like an airframe, they bounce a bullet off the airframe and they see what kind of contractions and damage it does. And yeah, of course, that's a symptom, the duck face, I think. And at the very least, it's unoriginal and therefore unimpressive. So please cut it out.
Right? Like, stop. And it just goes to show you that you buy into anything. People are, I know that, I'm sure some of that was probably set off initially by, it could have been. Maybe it was spontaneous. Maybe people are that dumb. But the whole chanting USA, USA thing, they did the same thing conveniently after bin Laden's 19th or 20th death, whatever it was.
Yeah, with the stadium lights already set up and so forth. Mm-hmm. They were ready for a celebration.
Kind of convenient. So I'm not saying that people weren't sucked in, because obviously they're buying.
Well, it was an event. They just had to roll out the lights and get a few people, hey, look, and it's a party. Let's do this. There's nothing else to do.
USA.
It's cool.
USA. Apparently it's cool to have, warrantless searches. And people are like, I heard people being interviewed going, well, it was scary and I really don't agree with it, but, they got to do what they got to do to protect us.
It didn't work, though. That's the thing. You don't have to argue even the individual rights issue aspect of it. It didn't work. The last suspect was found after they lifted the shelter at place thing, and the guy checked the straps on his boat and saw the bleeding kid inside.
Right, and the cops showed up and lit the boat up.
And they'd already searched that property. So it didn't even work. This blatant violation of the Fourth Amendment. A law officer is only supposed to be able to violate your property under 3 conditions. If he's serving a lawful warrant, if he's in hot pursuit of a fleeing suspect, or to prevent an assault. Barring that, I have a first-hand experience with this. I had a felon once crashed a stolen car into my fence and was hiding somewhere. And I went to go check my backyard and my garage with a handgun because I didn't want him. I had a family there. And then I quickly realized that there were cops with shotguns moving in the yards next to me, and I wisely retreated and back into my abode. But they did not force me out of my house at gunpoint, and they were in hot pursuit. It was unnecessary.
Oh, dude, this was a beta test for martial law, and people willingly. Again, I know that a lot of it was because the whole thing was a psyop. That's why they dragged the whole thing out for the week. Started on Monday, ended on a Friday.
We've talked about this, Popeye. They're going to build this these small attacks constantly on a constant cycle instead of going for the big game every now and then. It looks like they're just going to ramp up the consistent small attacks to keep us on edge and to accept these inedible invasions of our privacy. The Boston police chief is already talking about next year they're going to have drones over the marathon.
Yeah, and Mumbles Menino is the same one that said, this is the new America. No, it's not the new America. I said this the other night. You can take your Gestapo and you can stick it. Okay? That's not the new America.
How would drones solve anything? There was camera footage everywhere up close. How would an overhead shot of anything have done anything to clarify the situation?
I'll put it this way going to break, because we got about 25 seconds before we go to break. I'll put it this way. We already have an overwhelming police state. They have MRAPs, all this other crap, cameras out the yin-yang, bomb-sniffing dogs, guys dressed like stormtroopers, and you know what? The bombing still happens. So police state fail. It just goes to show that you can't protect us from anything. Go ahead and stop wasting our money, and we'll take care of things ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment of the first hour, but don't go anywhere. We still have a whole another hour from 11 to midnight, so stay tuned. But in this quick, short segment, and getting into hour 2, I want to segue into the police state for a few minutes. And I think the whole bombing is a great example of exposing this. And I've been saying this since last week, and I'll keep saying it because it's an important point to scream at the top of my lungs. And other people, it's not just me. There are many other awake individuals saying the same thing and making the same exact point. There's no reason to have a bigger police state because obviously your already overwhelming, huge, massive police state is an epic failure. But no one addresses that. They don't talk about that. Oh, we need more funding. Well, I'm surprised that this quote-unquote, what do they call it, the sequestration? I'm surprised that thing hasn't been blamed yet. Yeah.
Well, their budget is huge regardless. And the total failure of the police, and what more could they have done? It was martial law, literally. They call it shelter in place, but it's martial law when you have military troops on the ground checking IDs, when you have cops pointing guns at citizens, ordering them out of their homes at gunpoint. That is martial law. And I'm not quite sure if it's unprecedented. We've come close several times, but this was being hailed and celebrated in the media.
It was just, when they first had the troops on the ground, the guys, the National Guard checking IDs in the vicinity, because I had a local on who I know, and he's a listener. He's been a guest on before. And he lives in the area. I asked him, I said, is it all over or just in the vicinity of the bombing? He said, well, right now they're just doing it, they're just checking it in the vicinity of the bombing. And I said, well, that's standard operating procedure. I said, if you see them driving down the street in like MRAPs and stuff like that, then, and in full, armor, that's odd. Okay, then something's up. That I would say is martial law. And within 2 or 3 days, bam, that's what it evolved into. And you could see it the whole week, dude. It was evolving.
They're never going to call it martial law.
Of course not, because then that would fit what we've been saying, and that would prove instantly in anybody's head, that would prove it right. So they come up with little nifty nicknames for it.
Yeah, it's just packaging. They're going to package it in a nice way. It will be martial law. And people are going to say, no, it's not martial law. It's shelter in place. It's confined status in your home.
Let me explain something really quick to the listeners, just in case you understand. When you have SWAT teams or Army military police, okay, I don't care if it's National Guard or not, when you have military police and SWAT teams and cops coming up to your door and taking you out of your house at gunpoint, and then going in your house, and then they were searching through things. I mean, they were caught searching through people's closets and stuff. Why would you look in why do you got to look in someone's closet? Well, the terrorists could be hiding in there. Why are you looking through someone's drawers? That's an illegal search. Well, they let us in. No, they didn't let you in. You forced your way in. I mean, that's completely illegal.
And it's poor policing regardless, because you're wasting time and resources on detailed searches. In a pursuit or search like this, simply going up to each door with a SWAT team, knocking on the door, and whoever answers, I mean, you're going to get a clue if something's wrong. Okay? Or if no one answers, looking in.
But haven't you seen the movies, Holland?
And you move a lot faster. You're not wasting time and resources.
But Holland, haven't you seen the movies where the guy is the evil guy, the bad guy, the evildoer, is hiding inside the house, and he's got the family convinced to not say anything, so they have to go in for your protection. Don't you know?
Exactly. It's an episode of CSI or whatever. That's how they're viewing this. It's good entertainment. Here in Oklahoma City, at a recent basketball game, the sheriff's SWAT team in their black uniforms with ski masks and M4s marched out with an American flag to applause. They were applauding the stormtroopers.
It's just... it's frustrating, dude. And I understand what it is. I mean, I know... I get it, but it's frustrating because it's like Stockholm Syndrome on a massive scale.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. People will welcome their servitude. They're not going to force it down our throats. The thing is, the gun issue is a stickler. We're not saying that they're all powerful. The gun issue is a stickler, because if they can't force that down our throats, because we would react with self-defense, and they have to milk it dry. They have to kill it off slowly. They don't want that. That's putting them behind. So we're going to see a battle over gun control. We're going to see more staged events to force that through. They've already invested in atrocity, and we're dealing with psychopathic entities.
Feinstein said it. Feinstein said it. There will be more of these events until this legislation passes. Okay, well, then you just told us what's going to happen. That means you're admitting to crimes. You should go, law enforcement, you should go arrest her and investigate her. But yeah, I know that really won't happen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hour number 1 up. But that doesn't really mean anything. It just means that there's a short, quick interlude, and then hour number 2 will be right here. And we're going to get into this more and a few other things. So don't go anywhere. You only got about a minute. So get up, stretch your legs, run around the room really quick to get the blood flowing, and then come right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. Tonight is April 26, 2013. It is the Friday edition of Down the Rabbit Hole, and joining me for the second hour is my guest, Mr. Holland Vandennieuwenhof. Holland, welcome back for hour number 2, brother.
Thank you very much for having me, Popeye.
As always, it's a pleasure, man. Sitting chatting with you, it's not even like doing a radio show. It's like we're sitting having a conversation off air, and it's just things pinging back and forth between the two of us.
Yeah, you and I are simpatico. We can easily exchange ideas.
Yeah, we're usually on the same page without even talking to each other. It's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Usually how it flows when we get on air together.
Mm-hmm.
Quick first segment. We got about 3 minutes before we go to break, and then we'll have a nice long segment. But harping on the fact that, again, police state failed, dude. Just total state failure. They have no more. Honestly, in a logical debate, they have no more stance. They have no more ground. They've lost it. It's done.
The whole thing is a complete failure. I mean, the mainstream media is having to comment on it because it's such a sloppy mess. So I just wonder if they're going to actually exert effort to refine their techniques, or are they going to try to confine these events to controlled environments like Sandy Hook or something even more secure than that? Or will they go for something bigger that scares the crap out of everyone so they are unable to use their objective viewpoint to judge the evidence?
Well, they don't want anybody to use any type of objective thinking at all. They don't want anybody to think outside the box. They want them, again, you only go to us for the pictures, and I'm mimicking the FBI. You only come to us.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these other crazy websites out there with all these fake photos. I mean, they have to attack the alternative media because they're going down, like the Titanic. It's pathetic.
We should watch what's going to happen in cop shows in the near future, how they're going to portray the alternative media in those shows, because that'll set the tone in a lot of people's minds on how to view these things.
Yeah, is Law and Order still on? Because I know their favorite subtext to...
I am totally, absolutely TV ignorant.
I don't know if I know it's an old show, but I know that back in the day, their favorite subtext to every episode was the Constitution was bad, and that's why people are rapists or pedophiles or murderers. It's because that damn Constitution gets in the way.
Yep, you have these people's rights keep on impeding justice.
If we could only violate people's rights in some way, we wouldn't do it to innocent people, just the bad guys.
Exactly. And it has nothing, those shows have nothing to do with reality at all. Now people are railroaded into convictions and have their rights violated left and right. And they portray some of our greatest millstones as heroes, on TV shows. It's mainly cops, lawyers, and doctors. Well, those are not the heroes of society. They're some of the millstones dragging us down.
I agree. Usually, out of those three professions alone, and I'm not bashing those three professions, but you seem to see a lot of these bad people or people that have bad intentions come from those three circles, man. So it's amazing who they put up on the pedestal. But again, it's this appeal to authority. The guy in the white coat or the guy in the uniform. I'm going to cut us off really quick, Holland, because we got a break sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Nice long segment coming up. Stay tuned. My father did tell me, son, don't let the man get you. In fact, my father and my mother are directly responsible for me thinking outside the box. I think if anybody, who emails me or messages me and says, Popeye, we appreciate what you do and all the stuff you do. Well, I mean, yes, I am responsible for what I do, but my parents are the ones that actually pushed me as a child from the time I could read my first sentence to think outside the box. My father used to get me books about myths and legends and all this other stuff to educate me in philosophy and all this stuff. And my mother taught me to think outside the box when it came to a lot of things. And I think that's what we're lacking today, Holland, is that these parents don't teach their kids anymore. It's the state teaching their kids because, hey, the parents are too busy, and I understand that because it's set up that way. That's why, Aaron Russo even said it. Nick Rockefeller told him that the reason that it was a twofold thing that to women's lib was to get women out of the house so the kids got into schools earlier, and then you see the results.
And were raised by the state.
Right, and then the tax thing as well because they're out in the workforce. But the raising of them by the state is I know they want the tax money, but the other part of it is the bigger thing because that's how they break up family. And then what do you see today, man? That's why you see people out on the street. I love the government. They're gonna save us from the terrorists. Anybody that talks bad about the government, you must be crazy. You're responsible for the dead people. That's gonna be the new meme. That conspiracy theorists are responsible for people going crazy and causing bad things to happen.
Oh, they're doing it now. They're saying they're blaming it once again on inanimate objects, the internet, like they blame it on guns. That is responsible for this. He is radicalized via the internet. Well, what is the logical course of action to that? I ask you, of course, it's regulation of the internet. They're going to have a very hard time is the thing. That's not floating well, I'm sure, at all. It's entirely on its bald face unconstitutional. No one can argue that it is not. So it's going to have to be a state of emergency that really gets the internet killed or regulated into what they hope is a controllable state.
They certainly don't like what we have now. And then you have Senator Jay Rockefeller. Perhaps the internet never should have existed. Well, perhaps you don't like the internet, sir, because you're pissed off because things like your family and all your nefarious deeds are being exposed for all the world to see. What did Brzezinski say? He said it twice now. Once back, I think it was 2010 or 2011. I have the video from the CFR meeting in Canada, but he said it again recently. Now he's quoted as saying it's easier to kill a million people than it is to, baffle them and control them, because now people are smarter. But that goes back to his earlier statement of, for the first time in history, mankind is politically awakening. And they're afraid of it because suddenly they're not going to be in charge anymore. And they're afraid that they actually might get held to account for all the crap that they've been pulling.
Exactly. And they have several motives to resist this, and also the historical fact that a ruling class has never accepted a change of hands without resisting. So we're going to see them resisting and pushing back and even getting desperate. And what we're dealing with is a psychopathic entity by its structure and nature and by who runs it. And psychopaths or sociopaths or serial killers, they do not stop killing until they either commit suicide or they're stopped in their efforts or they stop for other reasons. They always kill. They never stop. And this government, as it gets more desperate, will lash out more, draw more blood. Like I said, they've already invested in atrocity, waded in gore to achieve their political goals. They killed 2,000 to 3,000 people in Fast and Furious, which is directly related to what is going on now, and they're certainly not going to stop.
That's another thing. When she was attacking, she being Rachel Maddow, when she was attacking conspiracy theorists, she decided to use Jones as the poster boy, because he's in charge of all the conspiracy theorists. Everybody in the alternative media wakes up and has a conference call with Alex Jones every morning. Like, how many different thousands of people out there doing this now? Right.
Well, they have to address Alex Jones because they don't want people accessing his information without going through their narrative.
Of course. And and I even said this last night, their narrative now, they set the tone back when he came on Piers Morgan's show. I think that whole thing was a setup. Okay, I don't think it was because they wanted to get him on for ratings. No, I think it was a setup so as part of a psyop so that later on down the road, because they've set the tone in the not the people that are awake. They're not going to see through that crap. People that know Jones are going to go, well, that's Alex. What do you expect, right? But to the people that aren't awake, they're going to look. I mean, look how they reacted as soon as he got off air. Well, that guy shouldn't have guns, right? So they set that tone, and then now every time they want to blame the alternative media or independent media, whatever you want to call it, they roll him out and they say, "See, you see," and then they find like a clip about him talking about the NASA and the moon landings and the fact that they did shoot the video footage of the moon landing. They did. It's a fact that NASA even admitted they had to reshoot it because of the Van Allen radiation belts or whatever. If you buy that story, okay. But
yeah, I mean, the very least provable thing about that is they have faked footage from the moon. For some reason, they have faked it.
Exactly. Well, but see, they cut it out, and then it's if you believe in 9/11 that the government or 9/11 was a black op, we'll say. If you believe that, then suddenly you believe in unicorns and aliens, and I'm not saying that aliens don't exist. You know what I mean? But like they just start lumping all this together.
Yeah, it's a classic propaganda op. I mean, that is what they are doing. But the thing is, people are not really they're shutting out the mainstream media. There's much more interesting things in the alternative media, even the semi-alternative media, not the second tier mainstream media. There's much more interesting stories, and I think they're turning away. Mainstream media is dying. I mean, it is literally dying. No one uses it anymore. No one trusts it, or for whatever reason they don't use it. So they're still losing on that end, and like I said, they're going to get desperate.
Like rats in a corner. They're freaking out, screeching. That's why, it's serious when you see, yes, there is a problem that they what they did in Boston. But again, so people understand, that's a physical manifestation of their fear of you. They are the ones that have to get dressed up in these outfits and run around and come in people's houses and open their doors and assert themselves like that. And a lot of them are driven by fear. That's how they control the police. They get them afraid of everything. That's why cops overreact to everything nowadays. Because
it's the easiest way to control people. When people are afraid, there's two reactions. They cling to authority and they lash out at the designated outsider. And they're not using their objective thought process because it's an existential threat. So it's a classic thing. More people are becoming awake to it, but there's still enough drones out there, still a majority, obviously. But that's changing, and the sloppiness is waking more people up. When Google searches on false flag attack increase 100-fold, that's 100-fold people who are waking up, at least a certain, perhaps majority percentage of those people.
Well, again, drones. What's more cameras going to do?
Exactly.
The cameras won't work anyway when something happens. Let's be honest, right?
And they're not going to release the critical footage anyway, just like with the Oklahoma City bombing. They won't release the videotapes of what occurred in front of the building with that truck. We even have, Secret Service transcripts where they talk about multiple suspects after viewing the videotapes, a description of the videotape, getting out of that truck. But we are not allowed to see that because it does not fit the official narrative, Tim McVeigh being the lone driver, the lone bomber in that event. So just so we see the same methodology. I almost think, that whole week was like a replay of what was going on in the 90s. They even replayed the Richard Jewell case. Waco was in the news for an explosion for a Holocaust. I don't know if synchronicity is going on or if they're playing a sick joke or if it's just the irony of history.
Well, the Ryson thing was another part of it. That was like 9/11. Somebody said to me, "Oh my God, now there's somebody sending Ryson," and I was like, "What does this 9/11 part do?" And they're like,
Yes.
"Huh?" I'm like, "Dude, Ryson, anthrax." I'm like, and they let the guy go.
Mm-hmm.
All charges dropped. Wait. You send Ryson. You make Ryson first of all. Right, and you send it to "quote unquote" the president, and you're let go and all charges dropped. I see people getting arrested in front of the White House for protesting.
Yeah, it seems like surely the guy had, something. The average citizen commits 3 felonies a day. There's 40,000 laws on the books. Surely something was his wiring did not have a proper license or something. But it was probably something so minor it would be embarrassing to charge him with anything. I think they may have messed up. I'm not ruling out incompetence at all.
Well, no, because there is that. Look, they are rushing too. They are, again, they're panicking. And so the aides that they have in the administration, and a lot of these guys are younger generation. They don't have the temperament.
Well, I also think that the smart guys are getting out of government. They're going corporate. They're de-investing themselves of government.
Well, because they already know what's up.
Yeah, and they see where the power is, what's going on.
Well, you remember what Kissinger said back in '92, right?
Which quote would that be?
Today, Americans would be outraged if UN troops entered Los Angeles to restore order. Tomorrow, they will be grateful. This is especially true if they were told there was an outside threat from beyond, whether real or promulgated, which means whether there's a real threat or they're making it up, that threatened our very existence. It is then that all peoples of the world will pledge with world leaders to deliver them from this evil. The one thing every man fears is the unknown. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by their world government. And you saw a mini version of that in Boston, where people, as long as I'm safe, you can raid my house and go through it illegally. And it's actually not illegally; it's unlawfully. I shouldn't use that term because legal doesn't mean anything. What Hitler did in Nazi Germany, all of the atrocious things he did inside the country, were legal, quote unquote, on their books. Doesn't mean it was lawful.
Exactly, and it's the Columbus effect when confronted with exotic and seemingly invulnerable technology and a total shock to your reality paradigm. I mean, an event like that would shatter many religions, or at least turn them into squabbling fiefdoms fighting each other over what the truth now meant. Everything would be destroyed, and certainly an event like that could be created. I mean, there has been a divergent technology stream. I believe in the possibility and probability of extraterrestrial intelligences. It seems to make logical sense, and there is evidence for that. But frankly, most UFO activity is probably secret military technology. The one UFO sighting that I've had was over a military base, and it was obvious that it behaved like no known craft, but it was obvious that it was something we had.
Well, I don't quite often quote UFO researchers, but one of them made a really good point once, at least at one point. I forget who the guy was, but I saw this video clip. He said, and I think this was even brought up in Ventura's conspiracy theory episode about Area 51. He said, when you see these UFOs, what they are, they're unidentified, so these UFOs, whatever, these craft, and they're flying, they're usually using, like, roads as, they're flying somewhat low, but they use the roads, like they follow them, the grid pattern and how they can see things. They understand it. They use things, landmarks, to guide themselves. Well, that's a pretty human trait, wouldn't you say? People go, well, aliens might want to do that. And I'm not saying they wouldn't, but if they have
if they can navigate between the stars without...
that's the point. If they navigate from, planet, Alpha Centauri to here, and without an issue, do you really think getting around the county is going to be a problem for their GPS system? I doubt it. And
they just hate to stop to ask for directions. They won't do it.
Right, exactly.
Just keep on driving back and forth on the same road.
It's, of course, if you use a little bit of logic, yes, of course, but most of these sightings probably are government ops testing new toys. All right, we got a break sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Nice, quick, short segment, and then, we've got about 5 minutes, and then we'll go to break, and then on the other side of the break, we'll have a nice longer one. But Holland brought up a good point. And again, I'm not bashing and saying that there's no such thing as aliens or anything like that. Of course, that would be ignorant and arrogant for me to believe that we're the highest life form in the universe, because if we are, then we need to have a chat with the Creator, because, wow, okay, really, wow, that's all I got to say. But
this better not be the culmination.
Yeah,
of a billion of years. Yeah,
please don't disappoint me like that. Universe, come on, whatever you want to call it. Don't disappoint me like that. So I don't doubt that stuff exists, but the black ops, the secret black ops stuff that goes on with this technology, and I don't want to hear, it doesn't happen. They have a secret space program. There's no doubt about it. What about all that? What about that Air Force plane? That's like, I don't know, a couple $1 billion. They shot the thing up into outer space. It was up there for 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
What was it doing for 14 months in orbit? Oh, scientific tests. Why is that always the excuse, scientific tests? Don't give me that crap. I know you might be doing a scientific test.
They have a space command now for the military. That's not just a office front. They have space command.
Now you're being a conspiracy theorist, Holland.
Apparently.
No, I know it exists. There's a whole black ops. There's a whole black space.
Well, control of space was dictated in by the Project for New American Century. Also, their wish list that is rapidly all being checkmarked as coming true.
They talked about it dating back to the 50s.
Exactly.
Johnson talked about it when he was in the Senate. They talked about like controlling things because then they wanted to launch nukes and everything.
Mm.
But when you start to look into it, there's some really shady stuff. And I'm not saying that there isn't aliens or anything like that out there that they might have come across while doing this. But this also has an agenda of they want to be able to control everything on the planet because then they could see everything. They can launch missiles wherever they want.
Mm-hmm.
But part of that is that they're having the technology to be able to bounce. Like the scalar technology, things like that. There's just
or just even more mundane technology, which they've admitted they have now, which are God rods, which are basically just depleted uranium rods shot out of a orbiting military satellite at a target on the ground, and it would be just dozens of them at a target, pinpointed on the ground, and as these tungsten rods penetrate the atmosphere, they become red hot. And when they strike the ground, everything is destroyed within that square area. Everything, nothing. Tank, bunkers, that's why they call them God rods. Ultimate destruction. And they've admitted they have those in space now.
Yeah, but you know what? You'll never hear the mainstream media talk about that. And if you bring that up ever, if you were in it, and this is what I'm talking about, if you were in a debate, like a logical debate, that's a piece of information. It's not bad. I mean, it's not. All right, what's going on within the information? You know what I mean? What they're doing is not good, but the information itself is neither bad nor good. It's just information, right? Mm-hmm. But you couldn't even bring that up in a debate with these people. And I'm going to say these people because that's what they say about us.
They can't process this information. These people who cling to these illusions, which they are. It's not logical debate. I mean, they don't debate. I've tried. It's absolutely pointless because they cling to these illusions, which are reinforced by popular entertainment, which they receive pleasure from. This is all on purpose.
Oh, dude, everybody's controlled. Like we were talking about off air during the break. Alan Watt talks about this stuff. And he's not the only one, but a lot of the stuff he's talked about, like I've learned a lot just from listening to some of the things that he's gone on about. Where, I mean, look at H.G. Wells, right? Look what they
wrote
talked about.
A book called The New World Order, outlining what was going to happen.
And they talked about using stadiums to control people, sports stadiums, and they didn't have like big organized sports stadiums back when he wrote that book. And what do you have now?
Oh, yeah, and the NFL is in a public-private partnership with the government in controlling the population. The NFL is run by billionaires. They are in the insider club. In fact, it all goes all the way back to JFK when Clinton Murchison, who was owner of the Dallas Cowboys, likely had prior knowledge of the JFK assassination, perhaps a role in that event. As you probably know, of course, Popeye, being an expert on that event, you are. But, the NFL is definitely in partnership with what is going on, controlling the population.
Oh, without a doubt, dude. And if I remember correctly, the founder of modern football was a bonesman, if I remember correctly. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Walter Camp, known as the father of American football, went to Yale, and he was a bonesman. Any big surprise out there, ladies and gentlemen, that the father of American football, something that's used to dumb down the masses, is a member of Skull. He's not a member anymore. He's dead, but I guess he's still a member, whatever. But he was a member of Skull and Bones. And if you don't know what Skull and Bones is, don't worry. I'm going to be getting into it with Charlotte Iserby. Actually, I'm doing an off-air interview with her next week where we're going to dig into Skull and Bones and the CFR. In particular, just those two topics, because I've had her on about the educational system, Agenda 21, the UN. So now I want to pick her brain about Skull and Bones and the CFR, especially because her father was a bonesman, and when he was dying, told her that he wished he had more time to help her fight this. So
yes,
I've
interviewed Charlotte in person. She's a lovely lady, and
yes, you have. That's right.
She actually had the bonesman clock in her study there, or in her sunroom. It's pretty interesting to see.
I'm telling you, dude, people can blow this stuff off all you want, and aside from the weird stuff, if you take all the weirdness away, and if you just looked at it like a bunch of individuals that are selected, not getting together, and they join an organization, they are selected. Okay, and if you look at the individuals, these people go on to be
15 a year only are selected.
Positions of power, we'll say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
based upon their family connections and their talents and their likely prospects and success, these people are selected to implement an agenda.
There was a movie made somewhat. It's almost like the whole karma thing where they have to tell you what they're doing, so they just tell you in like story format, and then people are so dumbed down. And I'm not bashing anybody when I say dumbed down. That's what it literally is going on. If we don't address it for what it is and we try to put, fluffy terms on it, we need to sugarcoat it so people don't get offended. No, they need to get offended. People need to stop being a bunch of babies. That's the first problem. I mean, they dumb us down. When I say the term retarded, people are retarded. I'm not saying I'm not using it to make fun of people that have, special needs or anything like that. The term retarded means slowed down. And that's what we all are on a huge scale. And why do you think people buy this crap? When people were asking me, I don't understand how people are out in the streets singing USA, USA. Dude, they've been dumbed down, and they're buying into the psyop that's going on. I mean, I knew people down here that were cheering and like, yeah, man, we got him. And I'm like, really? We got him? Like that's the same thing they said when we got Bin Laden, supposedly. Right? We got him.
People will celebrate that moment. It was the same burst of nationalistic fervor that is cultivated in any impending neo-fascist regime to cement its power, cement its loyalty, and we're seeing that played out. History does not so much repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And we can see what's happened in the past, apply it to what is happening in the present. But a lot of people are waking up. When we hold a banner here in Oklahoma City over a major highway and a pedestrian walkway that says Google Building 7, investigate 9/11, fully 10% of the traffic is honking in support. And like 40% of the truckers who listen to talk radio all the time. So a good portion of the people, if they're not active and, letting it be known, they are awake, and that number is expanding. That's why they're desperate. It's not working. They're going to have to change their game plan if they're going to survive, and I don't know if they're capable of doing that. The dumbing down may have gone too far.
To a certain extent, and with perhaps a certain portion of the population, I would agree. But I see hope. When I see the younger generations, did you ever get a chance? I know you've been on the road and running around. I know you've been super busy. I got interviewed by this. She's going to be 13, so I'll just say she's 13. This 13-year-old whiz kid. Okay, she does her own radio show, dude. She cuts up she's her own producer. She gets her own guests. She does the interviews, does her own video editing, everything. Okay, and I was impressed because here she is. She's 12 at the time. She's interviewing me, and she's interviewed Rosa Corey. She's interviewed Jim Mars. I mean, and she's not asking stupid questions. The questions she was asking, for a 12-year-old, I was blown away. So there's hope, and there's other kids out there like her. So there is hope, dude. There really is a lot of hope.
Yeah. The younger generation is reaching out to the alternative media and becoming their own media because it's truth, and there is a human instinct for truth. That's why they expend so many billions of dollars every year in these foundations on propagandizing and controlling human destiny. They have to keep the beach ball down below the water with every effort, because our natural instinct is to be free and to seek out our answers for ourselves and to solve our own problems and to expand ourselves as much as possible. That is human destiny. And as people become more awake, they're afraid of that happening.
Oh, of course. And they being the powers that shouldn't be, in case anybody's not sure of who Holland's referencing, they fear people waking up and just realizing their own true potential, because then they're not going to be able to control you anymore. You see, we should be way farther advanced than we are. Okay.
We have been dumbed down by vaccines, by public education, by faulty nutrition. I shudder to think what I was eating as a child now compared to what I try to do now, and what I know to be true about food and fake fats and all of that, and corn syrup. But we have been, and if we've been robbed of the proper nutrition as a child, you're not going to properly develop to your full potential. That is on purpose. That is why they're doing GMO. That is why they're controlling our food. That is why they're terrorizing people who try to serve real food, raw milk producers. It's all being implemented before our eyes.
Well, of course, and the only way that they can get away with it is if people are stupid and they don't understand their own rights. I mean, people are so ignorant of their own potential and their own rights nowadays, it's not even funny.
Well, they learn it in school, and how do you learn to be an adult now? You don't learn it from your family or from adults. You learn it from popular entertainment, and you learn it in school, where you're used to being bossed around, where you're used to having cops come in and search you at will. My little brothers, they went to a modern, huge high school in an upscale suburb of Dallas, and every other week he was walking out of class and a cop would be throwing him up against a locker and searching him and searching his bag and searching his locker. It just became standard practice, and they're inoculating the citizenry in a young age to this, so it just seems normal and somewhat weird if it's not there.
Now that I think about it, we didn't have cops when we were kids. I mean, in high school, at least in my, we had. I went to a high school. I went to my senior year. We had metal detectors and stuff on the doors of the one place I went to. But there was a reason for that. But we didn't have cops in the school and everything else. And now I think about it, they did bring cops into school though. I remember, I guess it was once every 4 or 5 months they would randomly bring the drug dogs through and just run them. If they had suspicion that somebody had drugs in their locker, they would do it. But when I think about it, they randomly did it too. At least once or twice a year, where they would bring the drug dogs through the school and just scare the crap out of everybody.
Yeah, that happened to me also. They did that. Yeah, and we were inoculated to that. And if you're not taught about your rights and you don't exercise your rights as a child or as a developing adult, you're never allowed the capacity to exercise your rights. You're not going to do it when you're a fully, developed adult and participating in public life. And we see that reflected in, the low rates of voting. More people vote in American Idol than they do in presidential elections, and for better or worse, because the elections maybe fix themselves. But, the population, we are under attack. Chemical attack, psychological attack, mental attack, physical attack now. We are all brainwashing victims. Some of us have escaped. And it is our job to try to wake up as many people as possible. We are in the information war now. This is the revolution. And thus far, we are winning.
Yeah, and that's why they're so scared. That's why they're freaking out the way they are. Mm-hmm. And it literally, this is what I see. When I see them running around on the street like they were in Boston, okay, that to me is a physical manifestation of their fear of everybody. And what they're doing is they're chesting up like a bully. Now, yeah, it's a beta test, but that kind of, the way that they act, that's chesting up like a bully, dude. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You were a Marine, you were infantry, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They didn't need to do what they did. That was overkill.
It's if not, it's severely incompetent and misjudged. And like I said, I never rule out incompetence, but it's also good not to underestimate your opponent. And just with the timing of the Waco thing and all of that, It could have been a clang of the warhammer, saying this is it. It's on now. We are declaring war.
It's on. It's on, and people need to be. What was it in California a couple months back? Where was it? Where they had the same kind of situation. They were rolling around, and
With
it
the
was
Christopher Dorner case.
Well, not just that, but there was another thing going on. Where was it? Oakland. I know that the FBI's out there doing something now. They're
There's some kind of mass sweep going on the West Coast.
Yeah, but
the
there was
area.
something going back a couple months ago where there was I forget which town it was in, but it was like martial law had been declared. The cops were running around in SWAT gear, and it was, I guess there was a rash of violence, whether like different cases. I don't think they were all connected. It wasn't terrorism or anything, but it was like basic like shootings and stabbings and stuff like that. And I guess things were getting out of hand. And all of a sudden, the next thing you know, they're rolling around on SWAT vehicles. I can't remember where it was. It was out in California. It wasn't Fresno. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember. It's gotten to the point where there's so much crap, it's hard to literally keep it, even in my brain, which seems to be a repository of information, it gets like all fumbled together and all, it's hard to like, oh my God, there's so much of it now. Back in the day, it used to be easy to remember all this stuff because it was one or two instances of it. But now it's, you can put on a blindfold, spin around, and throw a rock in any direction and hit some sort of illegal police, or unlawful police state type activity.
Exactly. I just had the pleasure of visiting the state of Illinois, and I was shocked at the police presence. The police state presence. There were red light cameras at every intersection. I'm not used to that, hailing from Oklahoma City. They just don't have the budget for that in Oklahoma City yet. I'm sure that situation will last forever. It's because people become used to it. It becomes part of their existence, and it becomes necessary in their minds by these constant acts of terrorism that are staged by the government in order to keep the war on terror drumming along.
Yeah, it was Anaheim, California, back a couple months back in 2012. Well, it's already April. Whew. Where the hell did 2013 go?
Yeah, no kidding, man.
Yeah, I just realized, I was like, my God, it's April. I say the date, as a marker when I come in, and I know, I see the date when I wake up or whatever, but it just, like, holy crap, because that was just like yesterday that you saw them rolling around martial law. It was in Anaheim, and it was, I guess I don't remember the exact details, they didn't have enough police or whatever, but it led to problems, and there was a couple fatal shootings, and the next thing
Maybe there's a riot going on that they're suppressing.
Oh, well, that could be, too. I mean, people could be riding for food, and they could just not be telling you about it. I mean, that would also explain why they wouldn't want to, put it out there. See, it didn't make any sense.
There's a media lockdown. There's no press releases. It's like no one's sure what's going on.
Oh, well, what's going on in California now is, fast forward to now, apparently because California passed one of their gun control laws or something, and now the state police are going and taking people's guns away. Oh, because, hey, welcome to, the USSA. The new America with a K.
So they're doing sweeps of areas for weaponry. Okay.
Yeah, that's what they're doing now. Anaheim a couple months back was it looked like Boston, except it lasted for days and days. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back with the final segment. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment of tonight's live edition, and it is the final segment for the week because it is the Friday edition, and that means that I have the next 2 days off, which will be nice. It'll allow me to get caught up on some more audio, and I'll be able to play some more off-air interviews that I've done, including interviews with Judith Baker, Rick Simpson, Professor James Tracy. If you're not sure who Professor Tracy is, he's the guy that Anderson Cooper attacked for having theories about, or not even having theories at the time.
Qualify Anderson Cooper as a known CIA propagandist.
Oh, it's so disgusting. He's got, I have to sidetrack myself, he's got a daytime talk show, like an Ellen DeGeneres style talk show, and then he comes on at night, AC360, giving you the truth. Blah!
I have from first-hand reports that he's like a jockey small, like really tiny guy, and he's like almost transparent. He's a very strange-looking individual.
CIA connections.
No, he was in the CIA. He joined the CIA, and then supposedly left right before he went to the Hanoi University to study.
It was just an internship. It was just an internship.
Of course.
Because everybody just happens to intern with the CIA.
Yeah.
I couldn't make this stuff up. I really couldn't. Ladies and gentlemen, I know a lot of this stuff. I know it seems horrific, right? But I always try to leave everything on a positive note. And we got about 3.5 minutes. And I want to leave everything on a positive note with everybody. I don't like to leave things on the negative. I'll let Holland throw out like an idea for a solution or a positive thought. But as far as my idea, I always tell everybody, again, look to yourself for the solution. Don't look to an outside source like as some sort of superhero. I don't know if I've told you this yet, but I came up with a new motto. Instead of 9/11 was an inside job, I changed it a little bit. I turned it into the solutions to our problems are an inside job. I think that's
eloquent in its own way.
Yes, I think it's much better. It kind of hammers to look to yourself for the answers to your problems, and so I keep hammering at home. So the solutions to our problems are an inside job. Holland, what say you about solutions?
Well, we are implementing the solutions as we speak by having this discussion and broadcasting it to the world. This is the information revolution. There are 3 stages to resistance. We're in the first phase, the ideological war. The second phase is after you wake up enough people engaging in mass civil disobedience. And actually, you can win in the second phase if you can shut the machine down. That's why they shot Martin Luther King, because he was going to end the Vietnam War by mass civil disobedience. That's a separate topic. Only the third phase, and the unnecessary one, is armed resistance, because you can win in the second phase, and you're certainly not going to win in either phase if you haven't won the ideological or the information war happening now, which we are winning. I am entirely hopeful that human destiny is not going to be tied into their machinations. Their effort they exert is proof of that.
They try to keep us down, and it's amazing. The more they try to keep us down, the more mankind seems to pop up and be able to overcome this. And they underestimated our true potential.
Mm-hmm.
They really did. They thought we were so stupid that we weren't going to be able to see through their crap, and that's a part of it. A part of this why they do the things they do.
They are us. They're not separate from us. We are them. They are us. And they are a minority, and we are waking up to what is going on.
They suffer from the same ego stuff, the same...
They are surrounded by yes men. They live in a false reality, the same one they're imposing on us.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine, dude, think about it. A lot of these people, and I've said this, a lot of these people buy into their own crap.
Yes, and those are the dangerous ones, and the ones who mess up, because they don't realize what's going on. And we're also dealing with psychologically damaged individuals and psychopaths who seek out positions of power to exert their psychopathy. Dumb psychopaths rob liquor stores and get caught. Smart ones seek out the most power, which is in corporate and government.
Yep. The smart psychos end up running for office. There's no difference the only difference between them and the liquor store guy is that they thought bigger.
Exactly, and they were smarter, and they learned early to avoid the consequences of their actions because society would not accept them. They learned to hide their crimes.
Well put. That's exactly why they do what they do. And then they throw it in your face because, there's the theory that according to universal law and, karmic law or whatever, that they have to tell you what they're going to do to you. And if they do, then they don't really bear any karmic responsibility. So they tell you via the movies and TV and all this other crap. And then people go, oh, it's just entertainment. But then life seems to mimic entertainment all the time.
And when it mimics entertainment, people's reality can be mimicked by that entertainment because it seems like reality to them.
Yep, and then the lines are blurred and nobody knows what's TV or reality anymore. And they've talked about doing this years ago.
Reality shows are part of that.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it's about. Holland, we are out of time, dude. Always happens when you come on. We run out of time so fast. I want you to plug your radio. We got about 30 seconds. Plug your radio show really quick.
Go to YouTube. Free Mind Films channel and watch A Noble Lie for free, high quality. Check me out on the my new show, Radio Free Oklahoma, on the LogosRadioNetwork.com.
This is Sparta!
Awesome. Thank you for coming on again tonight, brother.
No problem, man. Always a pleasure.
Always great radio. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. this evening, but I will be back again Monday at 5 at 10 p.m. Until then, have a safe weekend. I love you all. The solutions to our problems are an inside job. I'm happy.